Well, hi, everybody. This is Pastor Phil, and you are watching the very first episode of what we're calling God Stories for the Life Point Christian Church podcast. And with me is Jessie Lasher.
Hey.
Is it Jessie Rae Lasher?
Yeah, but I just go by Jessie Rae.
Jessie Rae. Mm-hmm. That's like your stage name?
Yeah, it's like
professional.
It's like what I'm known by. Yeah, Jessie Rae.
We're going to get into all of the cool stuff that God's been doing through you and this thing called Tuffmission. Mm-hmm. But let's just do quick backstory. Quick backstory, so as far as like maybe where you're from and how did you get to Florida and how did you get to Life Point Christian Church, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Where I am from is a little tiny town in Tennessee called Sparta. Yurt. That's our phrase. So, but I moved, my dad lived down in Florida. So as a kid, I knew that he lived in Florida and I had gotten to see him a couple times. And so I was like, Florida was like the place. Like I used to like fantasize about how much better of a life it was in Florida than Tennessee. And now that I've lived here for 12 years, I know that life is a lot nicer in Tennessee.
You would take Tennessee over Florida.
Yeah, now I would.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, it depends if you like mountains or you like beach.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
And I like both, but I like the seasons of Tennessee and the culture of Tennessee better than.
Can I just say this because Stephanie and I, my wife, we hike a lot and we've hiked that whole area because we were on the Appalachian Trail. I will say the people are much nicer.
Yeah.
At least in the little towns that we've come from.
It's fake nice. Like, it's like, bless your heart nice, but it doesn't matter to me.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fake nice.
Yeah, it's definitely fake nice because there's a lot of gossip, a lot of if you don't fit into the little clique. And that's what my issue was because you can look at me and show that I don't really fit into a natural environment of the blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh, in Tennessee.
Yeah, in Tennessee. So it's very they wear the same trending clothes. It's a very small town. So it's if you have somebody that's like, why are y'all doing that? They're like, why are you not doing that? Exactly.
So it's a little bit small town cliquey, but at least they pretend to be nice to outsiders.
Yeah.
So then you feel like, I would say this regarding fitting in. You fit in at Life Point.
Yeah.
You can be yourself. How did you get to Life Point?
Roaming around after I left, I was really deeply rooted into a church. And I left that church and I went through the season of just making sure that I was rooted in the word and making sure I was rooted in my faith and not just following after some teacher or making sure that I wasn't just people pleasing and all of the serving that I was doing. I just took a year sabbatical. Okay. And it was rough because leaving the other church was rough, but it really clarified the vision for Tuffmission during that season. And I was invited by the person who now serves as a secretary on Tuffmission, but I was invited by her to come here and y'all sang that song. Oh, hold on. I'm going to know it. Jesus paid it all.
Oh, yeah.
So that song is the opening song in the big Bible study that I've been studying through the Bible with Dr. Vernon McGee. That song is the opening credit.
Yeah.
Or opening song for that. So I was I had goosebumps. I was like,
it's a sign?
Yeah, it felt like a sign. It felt like a little hug. Like he was saying, this is, because that's how I really stayed rooted during all that time is saying because even though Pastor Vernon McGee is long gone, he felt like a pastor to me still. And I was able to still feel connected in some way. you
told me about Vernon McGee and I was right away, I was oh, I can identify it. I like the old school pastor guys like Vernon McGee and Chuck Swindoll and those guys.
He keeps it real. He doesn't have a congregation to kind of have to wiggle around, I guess, and support. And so he just tell it to it. And then he also talks a lot about his cancer struggle and stuff and how his faith was rooted. And I relate a lot to that because I've been disabled for 12 years. And so it was really... he was like a grandpa to me.
Interesting. Well, that's cool. So then that brought you here. And how long have you been at Life Point?
Over a year.
It seems like a good 10 years. But that's a compliment. Do you know what I mean? Because when people have been here and you go, you haven't been here for 5 years?
Yeah.
You're just so ingrained into who we are.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. I feel like you just fit in. Like there was a puzzle piece. There was a Jessie-shaped puzzle piece that was missing, and then boop, right in the middle of it.
It's funny. I have a puzzle piece on my shirt too.
You do? Well, see, it's meant to be. I want to definitely get to Tuffmission because you've already talked about it, and that's kind of at least the launching point for the God story. But there's so much other things that have been going on for you. I mean, you talked about being disabled. Do you want to just share a little bit of like how that's brought you to sort of the place you are now?
Yeah, it really does feel like you had asked me, give me some 3 or 4 questions that can help you encapsulate the story. And it's like, wow, like Tuffmission is really like this way that my life formed this weird ministry, like how he brought me out of the wreckage and then created a little story out of it in like a service, I guess. And to me, it's still forming. So it doesn't even feel real sometimes, like, because each part of this has been something that I thought was a deep need in the community. Like back whenever I was a single mom, or I've been a disabled single mom with children who also have special needs. So I felt like I was like without a community. I didn't know how to really like connect to a church because I was out of addictions and stuff like that. So like bar people connected with me better than the church people. I had a big scarlet A around my neck talking about being a divorced woman with 3 kids, you know, like, so I'm tattooed up. You can tell. I've been around.
You can tell you got history.
I had a Damascus Road experience. Let's just say that. So.
But it's interesting because you're saying like you connected more with bar people than church people.
Yeah.
But that's to a certain extent a part of what Tuffmission is. It's connecting people who don't feel like they connect.
It's like bridging the gap, basically.
We should probably just before, because we got lots to talk about, but just go ahead and lay the groundwork. What is Tuffmission, so we're not wondering about it, and then we'll go back to some of the other story stuff.
All right, so in a super short way, like our mission statement is bringing the light to drive out the darkness. So, and that is based through that 2 Corinthians 4:6, and it's just saying like the same God that brought light into darkness put that light in us, all to give God glory through Jesus Christ. You know, it's a big, long, really thought out sentence that I can't memorize yet. But so the whole idea is to bring, number one, the church out into the community.
Cool.
And find a place for them to connect and create together and explore different interests, different creative coping skills, whether it's music, like instruments, or production, or different arts and reading and writing, maybe different types of gaming systems, because underprivileged families can't really figure out what they're good at. So you find a lot of kids just wilding out. And that was my story as a child. So finding a lot of different things that make them feel better, you end up in addictions and just lost. And so our goal is to kind of like just throw a wrench in that little system and build this one place where kids or families can come and explore these different avenues of creative coping together. So like if, for example, I have 3 kids, they all have 3 different interests. I couldn't afford to get one into guitar lessons, one into dance, and one into, you know, creative writing class. So this way the family can go and explore these things together. But that's the end goal. Like that's the main thing that we're raising money for. And there's a lot of steps that we have to get there.
I see. And you guys have events. I mean, you've had a few events. What do the events look like?
So the first one was like it's called a Connect and Create. And that's based off of Ephesians 2:10. And basically, like, we were created in his image to do good works that he already prepared for us ahead of time. So like the idea is to bring a place for the community to get together. For me, whenever I first was planning it out, I thought it was going to be a lot of people from the community. But God really showed me something in the very first one, which was in December, because it was a lot of my kids' friends and then their friends. So I was able to directly impact my family and their friends. So they were able to hear the testimony. And so which I'm big on kids learning from their peers more than they learn from adults. So the fact that my kids were able to be with their friends as they heard the gospel was just amazing to me. So I was like, oh, that's really what it's based around. So then the second event we're planning is in June. So these events, and that's going to be a free family photo day. So these events are basically just something to bring the family together, but really it's an opportunity for teens to explore with us. They can serve the community. We met a few different teens that needed a place to volunteer, because they're not connected in a church. Their parents aren't going to let them be connected in a church, or they don't have rides to be connected to a church. So, they can somehow get rides to something that's not church related for some reason, and something where they can earn volunteer hours for their college scholarships and stuff. And then we're able to actually one-on-one talk with these teens. My kids are able to have some interaction with them as well.
Yeah.
At the event, we did a carnival. It was so weird that we got booked for this carnival, but I didn't have enough face painters for the carnival. So the very next day, I ended up meeting 2 teens that were looking for volunteer hours that loved face painting. And I'm like,
it's perfect.
Okay, God. So, and then the great grandma was talking with me about like some of the issues that they were going through. And the youngest girl's name is the same as my daughter, so Addie. And they were able to connect about something that I had actually been praying about for my daughter because she was dealing with self-esteem issues. Mm-hmm. So it just so happened that the person that we thought we were needing to help or needed our help was actually helping us. And that's that double-edged sword that keeps blowing my mind. So even if I don't plan it out, like the whole idea was, I'm going to bring the community together. We're going to connect and create. We're going to find different people that have the same interests. But it really, it ironed out in a weird way that the kids are actually finding us through different avenues. Yeah. And then we just say, hey, what do you want to help with? Oh, we want to do this. Okay. And then I create an event for them to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it seems like we all have these plans of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then I think you and I even talked about this because you were asking me some questions early on about about nonprofits and things. And you also learn as you go, though, and it forms as you go. LifePoint is an example of that. We thought we were going to be one thing way back because it's been 20 years, but we turned out to be something completely different. We thought, for whatever reason, selfishly, I'm sure, that we were going to be a mega church. We never became a mega church. We're a small family church, and it's what we need. Yeah. You're saying that Tuffmission, you had... Well, not completely different idea, but it's taking shape kind of as it's needed. Is it specifically sort of for kids that don't have the same resources as other kids, or is it just ending up being that way? Or
the goal was kind of to help support single parent families, disabled parent families, and foster families. That was the goal. But as the projects are like forming and what we're seeing, what the community needs and what they can't, and how to actually keep these projects running as well, like financially, how to keep Tuffmission rolling.
Yeah.
I was like, this is actually something that could be beneficial for the families, for any family really, because it could be a membership that you could go and you pay your monthly membership to just be able to partake in this community center. And then, but it was funny whenever I was developing the first projects, which I was super fearful about ever like actually establishing this because it was for underprivileged families, and I am an underprivileged family. Mm-hmm. I'm a single mom, been a single mom for 12 years. I've been disabled for all 12 of those years.
Wow.
And so, and that's just on disability on paper. I was fighting with illness and sickness stuff way before that. I have 3 kids that have special needs, each one of them varied. So I was like, I really have enough on my plate.
Yeah, you could be. I have a ministry just to my family, but don't you think that puts you in a unique place to sort of understand, obviously, the needs of other families?
God has said over and over, what you call your greatest weakness is going to be your greatest advantage.
Oh yeah,
and I keep hearing that. I've even heard that from random people that meet me. So I'm like, okay, I hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has been because since I was disabled, I had to find a way to keep us all connected through all of these different interests. And I would volunteer at different places. I would volunteer at like the Youth Performing Arts Center in Deltona because my kids wanted lessons there. So I was like, all right, hey, what do you need? And I'm like a really quick learner for some reason. Mm-hmm. And so I can just figure it out. And if they wanted something else, I would find out how to do that. So, and in regards to birthday parties, I had 2 kids with December birthdays. So it was like trying really hard. And then I had a spring break birthday kid. So I was like, man, trying to do birthday parties around here is rough. And nobody ever shows up, so we got really creative and going backwards, actually, whenever I was developing the projects for Tuffmission, I was like, how do I develop these projects knowing that I myself could benefit from them? But my kids are older. They don't really do birthday parties anymore. But I was like, and how do I make sure that I can actually still have the energy to do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is my health going to keep up? Like, how do I pay my bills? And and everybody, and so I was like, really not even thinking I was going to do it. I was like, I have this ministry. I thought maybe I was going to wait until maybe I got married one day. then I'd have a partner and he could help with all the administrative stuff because I don't have administration skill at all. So pushing it off for as long as I could, I had gotten really sick and super stressed and trying to manage everything. But like this deep ache of like, I just want to establish this because I really think that it matters.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about the actual community center, but more like being able to tell the testimony of like, I'm just this girl with like not really any education. I'm just a mom that is just pushing forward and letting God use that, you know, like just giving my 3 pennies and say here, you know, or like Moses and his staff, like it's just a staff, but here, I'll take whatever I have in my hand and I'm going to use it. And whenever I was like, how do I establish anything with a project when I don't have any money? You know what I mean? And like no administrative skills. I'm not a good writer per se is what I used to say. And I heard that loud and clear. Just take what you have in your hand and just use it.
Yeah.
And do the creative best with whatever you have. So I was like sitting in my living room. I'm like, what do I have? I don't have anything. And I was like, wait, I have a lot of these weird little skills like birthday, like face painting, all of these weird little talents that I've developed over the course of all this time. And I said, I'll just sit at my computer and I'll see what I can make with this. And I did. I just diligently just started typing and creating, and I would pull from one project and I was like, no, it goes there. I felt like a mad woman, just like a scientist with the Post-it notes and just, you know.
I'm like visualizing this like board on your wall with strings attached.
It kind of is like that. No lie. Anybody that's been in my room looks like that. Because it was like, he was forming, he had knitted it together in my mother's womb because it's the story of my life.
Yeah.
But he was giving me this clarity or this vision that was like, look, you can help people with what you have right now.
Right.
You can still serve me.
Right.
And so anyways, I started writing this out. And one of the things was this BOGO birthday party thing that I thought, I was like, it doesn't necessarily go in with the whole creative coping thing. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I kept sticking to this BOGO birthday thing. I was like, I could do face painting and then like something and then give a birthday to a foster care. What do I got to do? Mm-hmm. And it was super like not ironed out, but I just had this like prompting in my spirit to contact somebody from Embrace and say, hey, I have this weird idea. You don't know me, but I know you because our church did the parents' night out.
Right. And
I met with a kid there that I had been praying about, and we had a prayer board of those kids' names.
Yeah.
And I happened to grab that same kid who I gave my, wanted to give my flannel to that night because he had been wrapped up in my flannel all night and I didn't give it to him. And so I felt really bad about it. So I was like, maybe if I just write her, she can get the flannel to him and then I'll talk to her about this weird birthday thing, see what happens. Right. So I just wrote out this big old long email. And then she's like, writes me back. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's so weird. We were just at a meeting because we're trying to find out some way to get maybe some boxes made to give birthdays.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like I was over here thinking, how does this connect? I mean, there's so many people on the board and all my friends that I vouch. I'll like call and be like, are you sure we are going to do this birthday thing? How does this connect to this? What's the connection here? And yeah, it was like the very thing that they needed, that they were needing, or an actual immediate need. And we had the supplies for it. So I was like, okay, blah, 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 made 10 boxes, was able to get it over to them. And I was like, oh, that's why we started doing that. And then, of course, because we can be booked for face painting, it's just an avenue where we can actually earn revenue. Yeah. But we started using these teens to actually mentor them into being able to learn how to face paint. I give them their own little paint brushes, and I teach them the skill. I teach them what's good paint, what's bad. Mm-hmm. And so if they want to have a little side hustle, they can actually pursue that as well. So I was like, wow, that's actually part of the Connect and Create too, the Ephesians 2:10. So I was like, whoa, you're just totally blending it all together nicely.
Well, it seems to me, there's like a lot of things going on that you planned, and then a lot of things going on that God has planned in it that you're surprised about. You're like, wow, which is amazing. The thing that my question is, because, I remember we talked earlier, and some of this was like, I remember your discussions. Hopefully I'm not blowing your cover here.
No, go for it.
But you were like, I'm not the person to do this. Yeah. I can't do this.
I still say that every day.
I'm not, I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I remember
I have a blog post on that too.
Yeah.
Titled that.
One of the things I said is, if you look through the Bible, God is almost always
Yeah.
picking the individual who doesn't fit the mold,
Yeah.
right? Would be maybe the last person you would expect,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe the person who doesn't have the confidence. I mean, there's all these stories. You've got, obviously King David. He
Yep.
was the smallest of his brothers. You've got Gideon, who didn't have any faith in himself. You have Moses, who had murdered an Egyptian. You had Paul. Like all these people, and you're learning that. In a weird way, I think you said it. Your strength, your weakness is your strength, right? That's a God thing. Like
Yeah.
he says, to make sure. This is what I think is to make sure he gets the glory.
Exactly.
He's going to use somebody who's like, well, I guess this is God.
Exactly.
It must be God.
Yeah. And I'll actually disclose. You're not blowing my cover because I'll actually disclose something that I had really struggled because this was in a plan for like 8 years or so. Because it was really like I wanted this family fun center type thing. That was an idea since before I was saved. So it was like this idea that that ADHD people, basically, because I knew I was ADHD, could find all these different types of hobbies and find, because you can't afford all these different things. You find a hobby and you drop it. But that was like the first initial thought. And then I dropped everything because I had gotten sick and there was nothing to root it on, no foundation.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just an idea. And so from that, whenever I had my Damascus Road experience and just totally committed my life to the Lord, it was like each new year, the vision was a little bit clearer, but it was never something that I felt like I could do. Like it was never something that I thought I was going to run. I always thought I was going to marry somebody that could do it.
Yeah. You were thinking you wanted to be involved in it, but it certainly couldn't be you.
Yeah.
And is that because of the self-esteem stuff and the sickness as well?
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Just because I'm sure people are wondering, I don't know how much you want to divulge, but like what are some of those things that you're dealing with that make it difficult?
So I have lupus, and I've had lupus, been diagnosed for 12 years, and I used to not think it was very serious, so I didn't take any of my medicine in the early years, so it got me really sick. And I was actually in a wheelchair for a while. Wow. And then I had to regain my leg back. Then it was braced up. And then I had to learn to walk after it was braced. We had to do a nerve fusion. It was crazy. I started having seizures, so I lost my career. I couldn't drive. I got really sick.
Wow, yeah.
And I got divorced that same year. And then I was coping. I was coping like the best way I knew how. I was taking the medicine, but just still coping. So I had bad habits that I wasn't dropping. As lupus was being managed, I am also a cancer survivor. Wow. And so that had actually come back to rear its ugly head after it had been in remission for 7 years. And right in the middle of lupus treatment. So it just kind of got wild. So I thought for sure I was a goner. I put I made my funeral plans.
Wow.
We were laying out our exit.
This is about 12 years ago?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
So I was really sick all up into those years. By the time 2015, I was diagnosed, or the cancer, I learned that the cancer was back around 2013 or 14, and I ignored it. By 2015, I was admitted into the hospital, not able to move. And I was put on an all liquid diet. Things got really dreary. Wow. But that is where I was at a toy drive, trying to get toys for my kids. And that's where this guy was like, hey, I want to share the gospel with you. And I was like, bro, I already heard the gospel. There's nothing in there that I need.
Wow.
And he was like, all right, well, you're at a church, so sit down. If you want the gifts, you're going to have to hear about this.
Oh, so you had gone to some the toy drive was at a church.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was
this
like Deltona Alliance Church.
And you're going to hear the gospel.
Yeah. And so he broke down, it was like this little track, those 4 spiritual laws track. Mm-hmm. And it just really made sense. It was like, I'm a very literal person. Like my brain has to see things in like this picture form. That's why I have my dry erase board with all the little things, because that's how I understand. And God knew I needed to understand that and hear that message that day, because I was without any hope. I had just done Addie's 5th birthday, and I thought that was like the last birthday. So I'd done this big old speech and everything. I still get emotional. So the fact that he had given me this new life, I have a video of me worshiping him after this. And this was before I knew I was in remission. So there was like, I knew I was given this new life, this like hope that was sparked inside me that I knew was real. There was nobody that was ever going to tell me that it was not real. I was a child of God. I was loved. I was worthy. I was accepted. And even if I exited out, he was going to take care of my kids. I felt like peace.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I was lit on fire.
Yeah.
After that, about 3 weeks later, I got news. I went in for like an actual treatment, and they were doing all my like checks on my eyes and stuff like that. And I was like, man, my eyes, I can't see nothing. I said, it's like everything's blurry. They're like, actually, let's send you in and get you tested. And there was like a coating of white blood cells over my eyes. Like the lupus spiked the white blood cells in my body so high that it put the cancer in remission.
Wow.
And it was like the craziest. It was the craziest thing. The doctors were like, okay, I'm not sure about this, so we're just going to admit you. Let's make sure we're going to run these tests again. So we kept on calling it the Christmas miracle of 2015. Like, because it was like, and I was kind of angry with God because I was like, I literally just told the kids. Like, I had held it in for months. They didn't know what I was going through. And I had just told them, okay, just so you guys know, Mom has cancer. And then like a month later, I went into remission. I'm like, really? Just traumatize the kids for no reason.
You were, I see. You were upset because it's like you dropped this terrible news on them that maybe you could have avoided.
Yeah,
but
it felt like.
Well, I'm sure this is the interesting thing. Like your story, God is using every piece of your story in this new thing. And that's true for your kids too.
Yeah.
Like as they grow up,
true.
Their story, part of it is what they had to see you go through, what they had to hear from you. So that's an amazing conversion story. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, how has all of this, let me ask it this way. What is God doing through your life now because of Tuffmission? Because a lot of this stuff sounds like, it's somewhat in the past. Obviously, I'm sure you still deal with health stuff too. I mean, if I understand lupus correct, that it's like an autoimmune disease and it kind of doesn't just go away, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're still dealing with some of that, but a lot of this sounds like the past.
Yeah. And it was but all of these things, like it seemed like each new stage, like getting saved, and I'll say getting saved because I had known about Jesus before, but I definitely didn't call him my Lord. So by the time I started really serving him as my Lord, the vision of Tuffmission, I'll say, really started to like redefine. So it was no longer a center. It was more of a ministry. It was like, how can I share what God did and then also help?
Oh, yeah.
And so I was always trying to find work in areas where I could like make sure I'm talking with kids that maybe were in my same situation or in families that were in that same situation. So I kind of developed this, a little group of people that kind of was inspired by this. And
did you come out of that foster care sort of background as well yourself? Because you say same situation. I don't know if we covered any of that.
Yeah, we were in and out. We had one lady that actually became our foster mom. I call her my spiritual mom. And she put forth all the effort. But even as a child, we were like, she would, if we were in Tennessee rather, because we moved around a lot. But if we were in Tennessee, she was the mom. So she was our second grade teacher. She was our fourth grade teacher. She would buy us school clothes and school supplies and stuff. So like, she was also the one that took us to church.
Oh, okay.
And so she would take us and like a lot of other kids to church. And she made sure we would go to youth group. We'd go to all the little camps like Acquire the Fire and Winterfest and all that.
This lady's a saint.
Yeah, she would like pick up an entire car full of kids. She had a little Toyota Camry. And she'd pick us all up on Sunday morning, dump us all off at church, go get another car full.
Wow.
Like, and she did this for like, we were at church every single night of the week.
Wow.
And this is Bible Belt,
Yeah.
There
is church every single night of the week.
We do
church. There's visitation on Tuesday.
Exactly. We got prayer
meeting on Wednesday.
We got youth night. We got this night, so there's lots. But and we had like that interpretive dance type like thing that we were talking about. Like that was my jam, like the little mime hands and like the dancing in all the black and stuff. Like that was my thing.
Streamers.
Yes. And like all these kids, we were all kids from broken homes. They were all like me. And I'm still friends with some of these people on Facebook, and they still know Miss Elrod as that person that was like sparking that light in their life. Like like still to this day, I can think of a lot off the top of my head, but I won't blast them. But it's like they all, even if they're not in the faith right now, they know about faith through that woman. She's
like the one who planted the seed, and and then this other individual comes along and sort of waters it, like the Bible says.
Exactly.
Like she's planting that seed. That's a great, you think about people like that, and I bet you that, I don't know her, but I bet you sometimes she wonders why she does it all.
Right.
If she sees a kid that, falls off the, path or something, she goes, what's worth it? And she may not even realize the stories that, you're telling that are now like filtering out and affecting other people.
Right.
It's amazing story. Yeah. So
and she's so humble about it too. Like she doesn't think, like there's another woman that she also helped that when she was a child, because she was a basketball coach. So she had a lot of kids, too. So that woman is actually married to a pastor who runs their own church now.
Wow.
And also is like reconciled with her mom, who they had like a broken relationship. So it's like there's a lot of good things, and she just lives her life so humbly, but yeah, so I can't remember why we were talking about her, but she was the person that really helped our family. My mom, I love her dearly, but she struggled. She didn't have a relationship with the Lord. Mm-hmm. So she had her own stuff from her parents, and then her own addictions and relationship stuff. And I'm not here to judge her, because I've went through it too. Yeah. And if it weren't for the grace of God, I'd still be there. And I'm sure of it. Yeah. I'm sure of it, because I can still find times where I remind myself of her, and I'm like, I'm like, oh, okay, God is working it out. He's ironing it out. Because you can't help who your blood is. I can't help how I was raised, or something that's formed in the brainstem of my brain, my reactions to things like the anxieties or whatever, my reaction to push love away. I do that. So it's just that God is still using that. God is still working on it. And actually Tuffmission, as a nonprofit in itself, having a board and seeing them help me, seeing the response of strangers, seeing the support of strangers, that has been more like a hug for me, of knowing like it's like drawing a picture and being like, and then you want to see your parent smile at it. And my parents never smiled at my silly picture, and it feels like so good.
You're saying that they're like a sort of a family, I won't say replacement family, but a family, the board, and obviously probably the Christian community, because I know that you've brought over even to the church some friends of yours that you guys travel like in a pack.
We are.
I mean, in a good way.
She says, one of her is at my house right now. She's crashing there, and she said, "You're like, you collect the misfits, and then you give us a home." Yeah. And I had another person pray over me that she had no idea who I was, no idea. And she starts praying over me, talking about how I was going to be a mother to so many people, so many women out of deliverance. And she's like, what a teacher you are. What an apostle you are. And I'm like, those were my two top spiritual gifts.
Thank you.
Glory to God. Like, it was so awesome. So it's like these hugs of being like, yes, God's saying like, you're in it. Like when we were talking about these weird happenstances or things that couldn't be coincidence, to me, it's like it grows my faith, because I'm like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. I have most of the time wondering like, do I really, is this really a good idea? Or am I a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Like, did the medicine finally get to the brain? Like, what? Because I also have survived a stroke. So, that was my big test in my faith.
I was going to say, wasn't that the most sort of recent, devastating, was that but 4 years ago or something?
Yeah, that was in 2017. So how many years that is?
6, I think.
6, but that one was, that was really how I learned to really root on God. Like just no longer about what I think, like whenever you're trying to get something from God, I think I was in so much, like I got saved in 2015 and I was in that like super, like I just got healed from cancer in this weird miraculous way. And I was fighting lupus still, but I didn't even think that it was anything that could defeat me. Cause I had, I had the roar of a lion inside me. I was bouncing through, and it was so funny because God was still working on me. I was still smoking cigarettes, by the way. But I would be reading the word, and it didn't matter. I would chain smoke because I'd be like, oh, that's good. That's good. because I was accepted. It didn't matter. There was nothing that nobody could say to me. So I was working at at an orphanage, or it's a children's home. And so I was just on fire. I was like, look at God. Look what God's doing. Look what God's doing. Boom, stroke. And I like wake up into it. So it was like a little weird. So I was like groggy or whatever. So by the time I figured out what was going on and I knew I was having a stroke, I started praying. And this was like my pivotal moment to actually pray for myself and ask God for something for me. Because I felt like he saved me from cancer. He let me live. So I can't ask him from anything else. All I'm going to do is serve him.
Oh, you felt like, that's you're one thing you got.
Yeah.
So would be.
He's gets one good gift and that's it.
Well, but it sounds to me though, that was a turning point for you to sort of recognize a little bit of, is it an esteem thing that's like, it's okay for me to ask for it. He loves me.
He loves me.
I can ask for good gifts from my Father. He's not withholding.
He doesn't. And then it's so funny because he would give me the gift before I would ask for it, and I would be like, because I wouldn't really pray it, but I would be thinking it.
Yeah.
And then I felt like that was whenever I learned, like, he's giving me the desires of my heart, because my desires are aligned. Like, I want to glorify him. I really do. I want to live my life and show others that what he can do with your life, with a contrite heart can do, with what God can do with that.
Yeah.
And so I lost where I was going with that.
Well, let me ask you this. So there's a couple of things. I know that people that might be listening to this might be feeling the same way, or maybe going through some of those same exact things. Like maybe their family life wasn't, all peachy like the Brady Bunch, they have these perfect families on TV, or dealing with some really significant health things,
right.
Feeling like God wants something out of them, but not feeling like they're worthy of it, or feeling like, they are able to do it.
Yeah.
What's the thing God's taught you through all of this that you can encourage them with?
That all he needs is for me to say yes, and he does the rest. Like, if there's something in my heart that's an idea, it's not from me, it's from him. If it's a good one, it's usually from him.
Yeah.
And I'll say almost always. I'll say always. Actually, I don't even say almost always. I'll say all of the good ideas or good thoughts that I have, recognizing that it's not about me, so I can't mess it up.
Right.
So like, if he wanted that from me, he's gonna help me do it. His yoke is easy and his burden is light.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Because when I start pressuring like the notes and trying to prep and prepare, it's like, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
And like, any time that I say, all right, God, what do you need from me? It feels weird because I'm so used to control, but it's also like such a freeing experience, and it's like a faith building. Like, I'm like, whoa, this is trippy.
Yeah.
It's trippy sometimes. And then I recognize it has nothing to do with me. There's no way I can mess it up, because if it's meant to be from him, he's going to have it happen.
You think it's like sort of getting out of the way a little bit?
That's exactly what you said to me too. Remember? Do you remember our first conversation?
I don't remember exactly.
There was something that you said. You said there's some people that come in your office and like you have to like give them like guidance or whatever. He's like, but this is my guidance to you. Like, you're better off in this. You're in a better position than you think you are.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember that now.
And then you're like, it's almost like you need to learn how to get out of your own way.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell people, and this has happened to a few people. I've said, okay, people come to my office and there's one or two things you can tell them. Sometimes you got to tell people like, look, you really got to like work at this.
Yeah.
And I'm not really talking about like spiritually, but they need to make changes in their life, right?
Yeah.
But then there's people who they've made those changes. They just need to sort of, I need to tell them like, you're doing better than you think, because they can't almost either believe it or believe they're worthy of it.
Yeah.
And you say, you can work really hard, but there's a difference between working hard and then letting God work hard through you. And it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Right. I think it comes with the contrite heart.
Right.
I think saying yes means, okay, you're what you want, not what I want.
Yeah. So it might look weird.
Yeah. It's a little bit, and it's like I said, it's very subtle. This young guy asked me in our young adult, he's like, how do I grow my faith in God? And I said, okay, well, you actually can't grow your faith. Like, you can't do it. God can grow it.
Right.
the gifts of the Spirit are the gifts of the Spirit.
Right.
Not the gifts of you. Those are of the flesh.
Right.
So if you read your Bible, that's a good thing, but you're not reading your Bible so that you can grow your faith. You're reading your Bible so that you put yourself in a place where God will grow like through you. It's a subtle change. So for you, essentially, the message for everybody else is just like, get out of the way.
Yeah. Bring
Say
what you
yes.
got. Yeah.
Get out of the way.
And bring what you got. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally, it really does seem, it's like, is it that simple? Yes. It feels that simple to me because I overcomplicate everything. I overcomplicate everything. And the actual design of what I feel like whenever I'm trying to explain Tuffmission and I'm like, they're like, what do you do? Obviously, I can't even say it in 4 sentences because it's like, oh, well, this is our goal, but there's this, this, and this that we're doing to get there. And in this, these are also mini ministries, by the way. And then all 3 of these things could actually be nonprofits in their own. They could actually fully function on their own. But no, I have to have it underneath all one umbrella. Why? Because we're multifaceted creators. If we're made in his image and he's multifaceted, then we're multifaceted.
Yeah.
And I refuse to stick to a little niche whenever he says that I'm multifaceted creator.
You're saying like people like, what is it? You don't have like a 30-second elevator pitch. Just
I don't.
Sit down.
Sit down.
We're going to need headphones and a microphone and just some time.
Yeah. Because it's also, I think that it inspires each person whenever they start to hear about it. Like the teens that I meet that want to volunteer, whenever I see them going through my TikToks and liking them and then like coming back the next day and liking a few more and then coming back the next day and like, that means they're coming to my profile, reading the story of what our family's doing. Like my TikTok is basically describing what Team Unbreakable Family Fun is. That's what TUFF stands for, Team Unbreakable Family Fun.
Okay, light bulb moment. I was thinking Tuffmission because you're tough, you survived.
No, it's Team Unbreakable Family Fun. So, and me and the kids are Team Unbreakable. That's what we called ourselves during this whole single parent. We have different last names, so it was like our way to be like Team Unbreakable. We'd put our little hands and we'd be like, ready, set, team. We'd have team meetings
I've got a real Power Rangers vibe going on. Sort of like
we
superhero.
We have costumes.
Do you? Okay, I wondered about that.
We have costumes, and I'm Mighty Mama. There's Ansley's Jade Girl. Kai's like something warrior, and Aunt Addie's something like happiness something. But we literally when they were younger, we did it up. Like that was our we had like a crest. It was like our family thing, and it helped us feel connected. So like when they weren't fitting in school, because all of my kids are diagnosed neurodivergent, which is on some sort of autism spectrum, ADHD, or combination of all. And so it was really hard trying to help them face all of those challenges in school whenever they were, coming home to a family that we didn't have the abilities to have them nice clothes or whatever. So I'm like, okay, but life is still good.
Yeah.
We're going through stuff, but life is still good. How do we find out? We make the little things good things, So whenever we're washing our shower curtain, we put some Dawn dish soap out there and we turn it into a slip and slide. Okay, so
Wait a minute, stop. Pause.
You tie it around your neck and then they fly.
You wash your shower curtain.
Or it was an activity that I said I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Smart though.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things we did.
You're giving your kids such an exciting legacy to be a part of.
Right.
That I feel is, they'll look back and they won't realize maybe some of this was born out of struggling.
Right. Oh, when they hear the story, they tell the story of something that I remember completely different. Yeah. Like they talk about the Beanie Weenies in Tennessee that I created out of like ketchup packets and mustard packets and like a can of pinto beans and like grape jelly. And it was the strangest thing. And they were like, these are the best pinto beans. I was sobbing over those pinto beans. I was trying to make, it was my 3 pennies that I was trying to make stretch.
Wow.
And we didn't have nothing. And I found a 69-cent pack of hot dogs at the store and that can of beans. And I was making it work.
We need to include the recipe down under here because it sounds like something kids would like. I have to ask.
You had Beanie Weenies?
Well, not with
ketchup and mustard.
Yeah. Well, and did you say there was grape jelly involved in it? Okay.
You know those little packets, those square packets that you get? I had a lot of those. So I was just like plopping it.
It actually reminds me last, since we're talking about recipes, last time we went to the camp out, I remember I got to know you a little bit. And you told me the story of saltine crackers, milk, and sugar.
I'm so glad that that's what I remembered for.
Oh, no, I remember.
That was a delicacy.
Well, yeah, growing up that way, I was like, wow, But you had a fond memory of it, and I'm sure that's not really.
Yeah, it wasn't really fond, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that their stories, like when they talk about it, like I will ask them questions all the time. I'll be like, I love to hear their stories of like pre-Jesus Jessie versus Jessie with Jesus, because I like to remind them, like, what does life look like? How different is it? Yeah. How much different am I? How much different are you because of how different I am?
Right.
Like, so, and hearing their stories of how they remember things, like, it's crazy. But I think that's always going to be like part of how Tuffmission is always going to grow. Like right now we have these projects in place because I believe that I personally believe that they would be helpful in growing this.
Yeah.
However, I also believe that because we set it up as a board, and the reason I did that is because I do struggle with health issues. I can't be at a 10 all the time.
Yeah.
So this way, it's not just a small business. It's not just a sole proprietorship or just a ministry just of my own. It's an actual unit where we're all a team, a family that's working together for the same common goal, and they can kind of pick up whenever I'm not able to.
Yeah.
And
they enjoy being involved in it.
Oh yeah,
they're part of the founding of it essentially.
Yeah, because they were all my friends before. So I've been talking, like I said, I've been talking about this for years. I've tried so many different avenues to get this started. I mean, I've created. I think I could have already started 10 businesses by now, just because of how much I just create this weird. I'm like, maybe this will get me there. Maybe this will get me there. And finally, I was in the hospital actually right before I founded this, and I was just super, super alone, super quiet. I'm like, I don't have any other plan. I literally have ran out of all of my plans. How do I make this happen for us? Like, do I just go to a regular old job and work 9 to 5 and knock this off? And maybe I'll do it when I'm older or retired or something. Is that what I'm doing? Like, what do I got to do? And then somebody had ended up donating money to get it all started. And they're like, no, you're not giving up. You're moving forward.
That was the seed money to get it going.
Yes.
Well, speaking of money, I would love to make sure that people have an opportunity to support Tuffmission. So give us all sort of the credentials of where we can find all the information and make donations and everything.
Awesome. So tuffmission.com can really tell you everything. So it's tuffmission.com.
Got it.
And there you can donate. You can read about some of the projects like the BOGO Birthday Project, the Tuff Totes, which we're still trying to get up off the ground. But the Connect and Create events are what I think that we're really, whenever we get booked for face painting at a birthday party or a school or a business or church, when I'm bringing these other teens around, just know that we're also ministering to these teens. They're on our social media, so they're hearing a lot of the gospel there. So it's more than just booking us for face painting because we're a nonprofit, you know? So
multifaceted, like you said. How do they find you on TikTok?
So Tuffmission Inc. So any social media is Tuffmission Inc. And of course, tuffmission.com. But it's, that was a journey too, trying to build that. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Trying to build that thing. And it looks good. I have to say, I'm really proud of that stuff.
Well,
that
you did it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually fun to keep on editing it and stuff. So it's still growing. And I each time that a project really redefines and, then I'm like, oh, I have to update that and have to update this. And the vision statement was, I'm going to share this little picture so that you know whenever we were, Team Unbreakable Family Fun is what TUFF stands for. So you would think that would be easily our slogan, but for some reason I overcomplicated it for years, being like, what is our mission statement? What is our slogan? And I was like, silly goose. So it's Tuffmission, Team Unbreakable Family Fun. So that's why you can book us for face painting or karaoke. We at daycares, we do a lesson about what helps mental health. We did laughter on mental health. Then we did face painting. So it's we're not only just doing one thing. We're always multifaceted, extra. But we were invited to this birthday blessings ministry, which was a weird backstory, a weird coincidence that how I met that person. But we were invited to this ministry, and where they give these birthday parties to 3 underprivileged families. So I'm there watching what's going on. And they had this little activity, this little painting, this pour paint thing as the actual activity. I'm like, oh, art is so my thing. So let me get in here and start doing this. So it's pour paint. So you can see it's super smeary, except for this part. And as it was drying, before it was dry, this was also smeary. This was not broken like this. So I was like looking at it, and then you had to sit it down to dry, obviously. And I went about talking to everybody else. Ended up meeting 2 random ladies, and they're chit-chatting with me. And I was saying, yeah, I just started this nonprofit, and somebody told me to come here because we're doing face painting and stuff like that. But I'm really struggling on a way to like encapsulate what we do. I really don't know, because this is my heart. This is what I want to do, because I can have 1,000 different ideas, but their true solution is Jesus. That's the only thing that's going to help them.
Amen. Yeah.
Get over the depression, get over the anxiety, get over the worries, the feeling of unacceptance, identity crisis. The only thing that's going to help is Jesus. So you have to bring the light to the darkness. So I was like, okay. And as she's praying for me, she said it very clearly like that. She was like, you're basically bringing the light to drive out the darkness, and she just keeps saying it over and over again in the prayer. And then she looks down at this painting and she was like, oh, it's like, this is the darkness and this is all the light, and you're going to break through it. This is going to shatter. So then you sit this down for 24 hours and it starts to dry. I
want to say, in case there are some people that are only just listening and not watching.
Okay.
You've got like a little painting that you're held up. It's swirly paint that's all swirled, but in this other corner, which was swirled, it is like shattered.
Broken, shattered. And if you look at my tattoo that's been being formed, it's also like a shattered, like the old life or your old plans get shattered and broken, and that's what lets God bloom inside you, right? So I was like, wow. As it dried, I was like, it really did break through the darkness.
That's amazing.
And so it helped me to really encapsulate what all this was about. And I was like, and those kind of weird little signs, I won't say they're signs because I call them my God hugs. Yeah. Like whenever I'm like praying for something, then he just gives the answer very easily. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh.
Can't be a coincidence.
yeah. Then I'm like, it's a faith building exercise for me. It helps clarify the vision. So we were going back to, if I could get one message across, it's even if you don't think you have the clear vision yet, just put what you have forward, just take that step, and then he'll open it up. And I still don't know where Tuffmission is headed. I was talking last night saying like Tuffmission in general is my family. It's my testimony and it's my family. It's what my legacy is to my children as the patriarch that is now we're founded on the rock. We're now, they're going to have this great grandma that's talking to them and praying and on their knees for them, so it's a new generation for us, so now anytime that I talk about Tuffmission, it's hard because I'm like, it's a nonprofit, but it's really us. So there's nothing anybody could do to take it away. So it's for the community. If these ideas are useful, or if somebody thinks it would be a good idea, then cool, because we're a nonprofit. Come on in. Let's take part in it. Let's get it growing. If not, it's really cool. It's no sweat off my back because it doesn't go away. It's still going.
Tuffmission's a year old.
Yeah, not even.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, this is the early stages.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really great statement you made for somebody. It's just, you just take a step. I'm reminded, like, God told Abraham, go, but he didn't really give him all the details. It's like, he just said this one thing and go. And it's like, okay, that's a difficult first step for people to take. But I would encourage, one of the reasons I wanted to really talk to you is because as a church and as a pastor, I feel very proud. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm allowed to be proud. Well, but like, I feel like amazed that our people are just doing things. Yeah. Like they don't need permission to do something. Like just you're doing it, right? Yeah. You're a part of our church. You're part of our church family, and God's telling you to do it, and you're just doing it. And I just want to make sure that we're as supportive as we can and celebrate that, because this is what the reason for this podcast is. Like, these stories, we have to tell these stories of God. Like, obviously your story goes way back before we even knew you, but He's brought you to this time and right here in this place, and created a supportive group of people around you to start this. And who knows where it goes.
And I love watching it.
And you don't know exactly, do you? No. It's kind of a surprise.
Like, I was like, we have these goals, and I type it out and I write it out because I'm like, this is what I think. But if somebody came along and said, oh, this is what would work, and make that plug in together to where it works, then I'd be like, cool, let's go for it. Yeah. Because these are all just ideas. Like I said, we had this tough toe idea that I thought for sure was going to be something, but it's not. It's kind of fallen flat a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to park that, and then I'll find something else to do with it. But for right now, let's just go with what's actually generating, like when we did this yard sale, we did a yard sale, which was our like second fundraiser, I'll say. We had, in the first day, met what I thought was going to be our net proceedings. We met that in the first day, but then had more in our yard sale at the end of the day than what we did when we started, because more people were donating.
Right.
So then by the second day, it was Good Friday and it was a little slow. By the third day, before we were open, we made $100. And so I was like, what in the world is going on? And each time I met, like, I was booked for a face painting thing. Then I met the teens that needed to face paint. Then I met the founder of Z88, and he comes strolling along, and he's like chit-chatting, asking me so many questions about Tuffmission, which I love. You ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. I can't spit it out for some reason, but ask me a question, I'll tell you.
You'll get to the answer.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, I love this. And then comes back, and he's like, yeah, I'm actually the founder of Z88. And I'm like,
wow.
Excuse me. And he's like, yeah, I just wanted to really tell you that I love this. This is a testimony. I love your passion. Just keep going. Just keep it up, And then he like took off his sunglasses and like shook my hand, and he was like, keep it up. And I was like, yes, I will.
Yes. That's funny.
Because he's like, he has 6 radio stations.
Wow.
And he was like, and
he must have started in the same way you did at some point in time.
He's like, I was just a little techie nerd. He's like, I build radio stations for people who can't afford them.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, And so, and then when he came back, and he gives me all of his information, gives me his email, his card, and all that, and he's like, I want you to think about going to. He's like, have you heard of Nathaniel's Hope? And I'm like, have I heard of Nathaniel's Hope? I have a disabled child, so of course I've heard of Nathaniel's Hope. And it's like around here, it's like this thing that Nemours connects with Z88, and they do this like thing called Make 'em Smile. Well, the Nathaniel's Hope gives like rides to doctor's appointments. They give like stuffed animals for their birthdays every year. Like it's this super special thing that they do. But they put on this big event called Make 'em Smile every year in Lake Eola, and they have like all kinds of vendors, and the disabled children get these little shirts called VIP shirts, and they get to like get all kinds of free stuff, and they're these little VIPs for the day. So they're like super celebrities for the day around there, and everybody will be like, oh my God, like, hi, to make these kids feel awesome. So Ansley, whenever we first moved down here, Ansley was still on a feeding tube. So, because Ansley was born with congenital hypopituitarism, that's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother miracle testimony that I just is like, always amazes me, because each time I see a new story, like a new medical report for her, I'm blown away. But anyway, when we first got here, she was still on a feeding tube. I had to get a special daycare for her to be able for me to work, and so we were part of Nathaniel's Hope. We were a VIP. So we were invited to Make 'em Smile, and there was a song called More by Matthew West. And he says, like, I don't know all the lyrics, but it's basically, it's like it's almost like as if God is saying it, because it's like, I have given you more, and I've given you this. So, I love you more than all this, And I was hearing that play as I'm pushing her, Kai was like 4.5. No, not even. He was not even 4.5. He was 4. She's 1, and I'm pushing her, and we just got out of this like crazy marriage, it was wild moving here from Tennessee. And I was like, okay, we have hope. There's going to be hope here. We're going to start new, and we're going to be good. And there's a line in that song, which I didn't realize until after he invited me to Make 'em Smile, because I was like, that would be great if we were vendors that Make 'em Smile, like full circle. Whoa, that would be great. And I'm tripping out, and I'm like, wait, there was a song called More by Matthew West. What is that? And I look it up. And in the song, it's like, shine. There's a light that I put inside you. So shine for me. Wow. I'm like, that's exactly what we did. I never thought when I first moved down here, I didn't think I was going to have find a nonprofit or have even a close knit group of friends that were church friends. I didn't think I could even have that.
Right.
I didn't think I could have anything, but I knew that because of what Miss Elrod had planted, those seeds, he was there reminding me, and he was guiding me all this time and holding my hand through all those really hard times until I found my way back to him. Yeah. And I firmly believe that. So I believe that that's what's going on for other people too. And so whenever they hear us out in the community and they see us, or they hear us on the podcast or on a regular radio station, or, they see us out in the community, then they know it's him. They know it's that light, because they recognize it. It burns that little ember that was kind of dulling out in them. It sparks it back up.
Yeah.
And you can be just like me, smoking your cigarettes and reading the Bible. And he will still sanctify you. He will still say, I don't smoke cigarettes now. So glory to God.
Sanctification's a process. So here's what I want to do. I want to close up and make sure that everybody knows Tuffmission.com is the place to go.
Yeah.
You said you have a podcast. You've been dreaming. This is another one of the multifaceted, but you're going to dream about a podcast coming out so you can continue telling these stories, because I think we really only just scratched the surface of what God's done in your life.
Yeah.
But maybe the thought I want to end on is, shining the darkness. It's just about Jesus, isn't it? This whole thing that you're doing, it's a way to reach and make a difference. But behind all of that is the light of Jesus. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for sharing and telling the story and everything.
Letting me spit it all out and like encapsulating it for me.
No, it's good. It's good. Like I said, I think we just scratched the surface. You guys, let me talk to the camera. You guys need to definitely get to know Jessie. If you're a part of Life Point Church, you'll see her on Sunday. She's one of our greeters.
Yeah.
She's a top greeter.
Yeah.
VIP greeter.
I am the VIP. And I also do worship with the kids every single Sunday now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
love
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
We've been having so much fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, get to know Jessie. Now, if you are not a part of Life Point, then my encouragement is check out Tuffmission. If you, maybe some of the stuff that was said in this podcast like really started to like work on your heart, right? Maybe that you're in the same place that she was in, reach out to us. We have a number that you can text. It's 407-988-0991. If you have questions about salvation, if you need help in recovery, you want to be pointed in the right direction for a church, you want us to put you in touch with Jessie, for example, reach out at that number. I'll leave it on the screen here for a little bit. But thank you so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. We'll see you guys later. God bless.
Bye. That was so awesome.